Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've been with us, you'll definitely recall our explorations into the Clampett crisis. Just extraordinary stuff.
Extraordinary is almost putting it mildly, isn't it?
Right. So today we're not going back into that initial chaos. Instead, we're zeroing in on the immediate aftermath, specifically what was hitting the news on April 10th, 2025.
Exactly. And for listeners who followed our previous dives, you know how fast everything happened back then, today's like a snapshot. We're looking really closely at the news from just that one day.
Yeah, trying to pull apart those first reactions, those first signs of how the world was starting to, cope after something so unprecedented.
Understanding the flow, the key things people were hearing right away.
So if you're looking to get up to speed quickly on what was breaking that day, this is it, our sources. We've got articles right here from the Ottawa Diplomat, all stamped April 10th, 2025.
And our goal, our mission for this dive is pretty clear. Pull out the big updates from these articles, see if any patterns were starting to show up, and really get a handle on the immediate fallout from the Clampett crisis as it was being reported.
Okay, let's jump in. First headline here. Last alliance meeting a resounding success. Sense of right alliance forged. Sounds hopeful, maybe.
It does on the surface. The article lays out the creation of this new group, the Sense of Right Alliance, formed in Valletta, Malta.
Valletta, okay. And who's in it?
Let's see, Canada, China, France, Indonesia, Persia, Portugal, and Spain. So quite a mix geographically and politically.
That is diverse. What's the stated reason why this group right now?
Well, the article says it's about a renewed commitment to international cooperation and taking a firm stance against future conflicts. But, crucially, it links it directly to the Clampett crisis.
Ah, okay, so a direct consequence.
Exactly. It mentions learning the lessons of the Clampett crisis,
Yeah.
and it uses this phrase, collective memory of the abyss. That really jumps out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Collective memory of the abyss. Wow. Yeah, that suggests something really profound, like a shared trauma almost.
It does. Like they all stared into the same void and decided, okay, we need to work together differently now.
Yeah.
It suggests this wasn't just patching things up, but maybe building something new because of what happened.
So what are they actually trying to do with this alliance? What are the goals?
The main goal, according to the report, is ensuring global stability and pushing for peaceful resolutions, especially with recent border disputes. They frame it as moving past the weary peace that came after Ball's defeat.
Right, that whole period felt fragile.
Exactly, towards something more solid, more secure.
Yeah.
But, the interesting question the article implicitly raises, just by listing those nations, is whether this diverse group, with all their own histories and agendas, can actually stick together when the next crisis hits. That collective memory is strong now, but will it override national interests down the line?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Easy to agree right after a disaster, harder to maintain years later. Okay, moving from global alliances to individuals trying to maybe shape the future. Next headline, presidential candidate Gillis pledging money to CERN.
Ah, yes, this one caused a bit of a stir.
Seems like it. $1.4 million of his own cash, plus a promise of $40 million more over 4 years if he gets elected. That's not insignificant.
Definitely not. And Gillis frames it as supporting CERN's vital role in our world's security and scientific advancement, especially after the Clampett crisis.
Oh.
He's saying they need the resources.
And CERN, just for context, is that huge international physics lab, right? Fundamental research.
Precisely. Particle physics, understanding the universe. Gillis is basically saying, these guys are important for keeping us safe now, let's fund them. Positioning it as an investment in this sort of changed world.
But there's always a but, isn't there? Dr. Finch, CERN's director, wasn't buying it.
Not at all. The article quotes Finch being pretty blunt, actually, calling it nothing more than politics, and really questioning the timing.
Ouch. So Finch thinks it's just electioneering.
That's the strong implication.
Right.
Is it genuine support for science and security, or is it a calculated move to look good before an election? The article puts both sides out there, Gillis's lofty statement and Finch's rather cynical take.
It leaves you wondering, doesn't it, about the real motives, and maybe about how science gets funded in general now. Is it relying more on pledges like this?
That's a really good point. Does relying on political promises or private donors change the direction of research? What are the potential issues there? It definitely shows that even with everything that happened, politics hasn't exactly stopped.
No kidding. Okay, shifting gears again, something I know folks who followed our earlier dives will be interested in. Dr. Daniel Jackson. He's planning an expedition back to the Clampett universe.
Yes, a pretty bold move, considering. The announcement says he wants to lead a team back in.
Back in what?
To investigate the origins of the crisis, gather more information. His reasoning is basically to understand it better to, quote, prevent future incidents. It's that scientific impulse, isn't it, to figure out what happened?
It really is. But it's interesting who's not going. The article notes Major Carter and Teal aren't on this team.
Right. It mentions they're busy with other things. Carter with her research, Teal with the Jaffa, which kind of highlights how complex things still are. Everyone has these ongoing responsibilities.
Yeah, it does. And forming a new Stargate team for this, it shows they're still committed to this kind of exploration, but maybe with a different approach.
Seems like it. And Jackson is very careful about the mission's stated goals. What did you make of that emphasis?
He stresses it's purely exploratory and scientific. No intervention. He talks about his role being history, context, understanding. It feels like a deliberate choice.
Absolutely. Given how unpredictable that universe turned out to be, and the potential for, well, unintended consequences.
Yeah, we saw plenty of those.
A hands-off, research-only approach seems pretty sensible, maybe cautious. It feels like another lesson learned from the crisis, perhaps. Understand first, act later, or maybe don't act at all.
Maybe so. Okay, hold on to your hats for this next one.
Never.
This headline, I honestly read it twice. Cristiano Ronaldo resurfaced in Hong Kong as a pirate captain.
Yeah. Wow. That one is something else. I think everyone did a double take on that.
A pirate captain? Seriously?
That's what the report says. 6 months after he vanished during the Clampett crisis chaos down in Florida, he's apparently been spotted commanding a pirate ship near Hong Kong.
How does he explain that? Going from global football superstar to pirate?
His reported explanation is, well, survival. He claims he escaped the mess by sea and basically fell into piracy to stay alive. It's a dramatic shift, to say the least.
Atlantic doesn't even cover it, and he seems to be owning it. What was that quote?
I'm a pirate captain now. This is my life. The sea is where I belong. Pretty definitive statement, isn't it?
It's staggering. It just shows the sheer level of upheaval, the completely bizarre ways the crisis affected people, even someone like him.
Exactly. It throws the whole idea of a normal life trajectory out the window for some people, it seems. The contrast between his old life and this new reported reality is just stark. Almost unbelievable.
It really is. And this ties into another weird story, doesn't it? The rumors that were already floating around in Tennessee.
Oh, right. The Kargul Death Cleaver connection.
Yeah, the idea that Ronaldo might actually be the orc leader, Kargul Death Cleaver, which always sounded completely nuts.
Utterly nuts. Based on, what, a commanding presence and him being on vacation, it felt like pure speculation, maybe even dark humor gone wild online.
Totally. So how does this pirate news fit in with that theory? Does the article connect them?
It does, yeah. It points out that if Ronaldo was supposedly captaining a pirate ship in Hong Kong,
then he's probably not leading orcs in Tennessee.
Exactly. It makes the Kargul theory even more outlandish, if that was possible. It just adds another layer of weirdness and contradiction to the whole Ronaldo saga. Where has he been? What has he been doing?
So the article basically says, look, we have these wild rumors about him being an orc, and now this wild report about him being a pirate, and none of it really adds up.
Pretty much. It highlights how speculative it all is, how unsubstantiated. But it also taps into that sort of post-crisis atmosphere where maybe slightly bizarre stories gain more traction than they normally would.
That makes sense. But it's important to remember, like the article stresses, that the orc situation in Tennessee is actually serious. These rumors are one thing, but that conflict is real.
Absolutely crucial distinction. The article makes a point of saying we need verifiable information, especially with dangerous situations like the orc skirmishes. The whole Ronaldo thing, pirate or orc or neither, is almost a bizarre distraction from the real-world consequences.
Okay, let's just take a breath here. So on this one day, April 10th, 2025, the news includes a new international peace alliance.
Right. The Sense of Right Alliance.
A presidential candidate pledging millions to CERN, but the director's highly skeptical.
Politics as usual, perhaps.
Dr. Jackson planning a scientific trip back to the Clampett universe.
Carefully. Non-interventionist.
And a world-famous footballer turning up as a pirate captain, complicating existing frankly insane rumors about him being an orc leader.
Quite the day's news cycle.
It really is, and when you lay it all out like that...
You see the connections, right? As the Ottawa diplomat kind of implies, these aren't totally separate things.
Yeah.
They're all ripples from the Clampett crisis.
Yeah, the alliance is a direct political reaction. Gillis and CERN, that's about security and science in this new context. Jackson's mission is the scientific follow-up.
And even the Ronaldo story, as bizarre as it is, shows the personal, unpredictable fallout. How individual lives were just completely thrown off course.
It really drives home how widespread the effects were. Global politics, science, individual lives, nothing untouched, it seems.
Exactly. And this single day's news gives us this fascinating, slightly unsettling window into that moment. The world trying to find its feet, trying to make sense of it all, trying to deal with the sheer weirdness that got unleashed.
So, to sum up the big takeaways from the Ottawa diplomat on April 10th, we saw the sense of right alliance form, aiming for stability.
A direct lesson from the crisis.
We had Gillis's controversial pledge to CERN,
raising questions about motives.
Dr. Jackson gearing up for an exploratory, not interventionist, mission to the Clampett universe.
Science trying to understand.
And then the whole Cristiano Ronaldo situation, pirate captain in Hong Kong, adding another twist to those bizarre Kargul Death Cleaver rumors out of Tennessee.
Yeah, the truly unpredictable human element.
And all these threads, like you said, trace straight back to the Clampett crisis, showing just how far-reaching and, frankly, strange the consequences were.
They really do. It's a snapshot of the immediate global reaction, the attempts to navigate this new reality.
It makes you think, though. You know, after something that massive, that world-altering, everyone rushes to create a sense of normalcy, right? Alliances, funding pledges, expeditions. It's all about moving forward.
Trying to regain control, maybe?
But what anxieties, what uncertainties were probably churning away just beneath the surface of those news reports? What wasn't being said?
That's the really deep question, isn't it? These are the headlines, the official actions, the bizarre anecdotes. But what about the long-term psychological impact? The societal shifts that aren't immediately obvious? How does humanity really process something like the Clampett crisis below the surface of the news?
Exactly. These reports from April 10th show the first steps, the attempt to build that new normal, but they probably barely scratch the surface of what was really going on in people's heads and in society long term.
Definitely food for thought.
Indeed. Well, thanks for diving deep with us into these specific reports today. It's a fascinating look at the immediate ripples and a reminder of just how complex and interconnected everything became after the crisis. We hope you'll keep thinking about these events and maybe wonder about those deeper currents that don't always make the news.